In 2024, new year, new us. Got the old man here with me today. Gonna ask him some questions about commercial real estate and just kind of pick his mind a little bit on what he thinks to get started. We're gonna be starting this new podcast. I think we're gonna try and do it once a week, and we're just gonna pick a topic every week and just kind of riff back and forth and just dive into the world of commercial real estate. Thanks for joining me, Dan.
Sounds good. Looking forward to it, bud. Happy New Year, by the
Uh,
way.
Yeah, absolutely. New year, new us.
Yeah.
All right. So, the first question I got for you today is, why would you pick commercial real estate over residential?
Well, I mean, first of all, I started off as a residential investor. I mean, I bought the duplexes, I bought the four families, and in my mind, it takes the same amount of work to buy a residential investment property than it does to buy like a small commercial property. I mean, it literally does. And I think, I owned a bunch of residential properties, and um, it, when you own like a for instance a small apartment building versus like a bunch of houses, you got one roof, one lawn. It's kind of self-contained set of mechanicals. So when you own a bunch of houses, it's harder to manage. I think if you owned like a few single family houses, and let's say you own an 8-unit apartment building, if you lose one of the tenants on those houses, I mean, you're literally down for 1, 2, 3 months while you try to go find a tenant, which means zero cash flow, but you still got all your expenses coming
Yeah,
plus your mortgage. Where if you were to buy like a small apartment building, one tenant down in an 8 or a 10 unit apartment building isn't going to kill you, right? You got 8, 9 other tenants. So um, I think it's that makes things a lot easier. And like I've bought a lot of commercial real estate where I've bought vacancy problems. So I see a commercial property, I know that I can fill it. It's in a good location. So I get a really good deal on buying a commercial property, and then I can literally go knock on doors if I want to fill that space. And I've done that so many times. So when I do that, I buy it at a vacant property level. I put the income in place, and then the value just skyrockets.
yeah,
Where with residential, I mean, your residential property is pretty much based on what appraisers look at comps for your neighbor. So it's like there's not really a heck of a lot that you can do to residential real estate to increase the value that much. It's way more based on neighborhood comps, that you have really no control. I mean, you can't control your neighbor's property.
yeah.
And so I think it's way easier to scale commercial real estate, and kind of it's much simpler, same amount of work, in my mind.
Yeah. So, following up on that, what would you say does the competition look like in both of those fields? Like, is residential more like packed with people, harder to find deals than commercial?
I
What
think,
do you your
yeah.
thoughts on that?
Yeah, I completely, and that's one of the main reasons why I got out of residential is back when I was doing residential deals, they were cash flowing really well still. So I was
Hmm.
buying really good properties. They were cash flowing really well. I was able to get nice rent increases, and then they just stopped. It got super competitive. People were really, residential investors were really coming out of the woodwork, bidding up prices on properties, and there was a lot of guys out there chasing the same deals. And with commercial real estate, there is this way less competition. I mean, just do a simple search in your area, and you're just going to find that there's way fewer commercial properties, which means there's, I think, more opportunities. And one other thing I probably should have mentioned is that in my experience, commercial property owners are entrepreneurs and they're business owners. They're not emotional home sellers, which means that they are way more willing to be flexible on terms. For example, like I've bought a lot of property with some creative financing where I've had the sellers do some financing. I've been able to take over payments on some properties or have sellers do second mortgages, all kinds of creative stuff. So because they're business owners, they're way more willing to do that. And then when I've sold some properties, I've also sold on terms, which is can be a real advantage, and it can still offer you monthly recurring revenue without the burdens of owning the property. Somebody else, I sold the property, owns it, but I still kind of sometimes act as the bank, and I still have that monthly income coming in, which is pretty cool.
Gotcha. All right. So, kind of following up with that question, if someone's looking to, convert from residential like you did to commercial real estate, what would be some first steps that someone should take?
I think one first thing, it's a smart idea. Second of all, I think 2024 is the perfect time to do it. There is a real shift happening in commercial real estate now where a lot of owners are going to get hurt, quite honestly, because of the mistakes they've made over the past few years, relying on low interest rates to make deals pencil, um, just relying on really crazy rental increases projected in the future to make your numbers work. And that's just, I think, all coming to an abrupt halt. And so now their loans are going to start rolling and their properties aren't going to be worth, in many cases, what they owe to the bank. So now they're in trouble. I
Mhm.
dealt with this issue in 2009 and 10, and I stared off that cliff and I worked through it. So that there is a big opportunity coming in for guys like us and people that have dry powder. That spells opportunity, and anybody that's been in real estate long enough knows this goes in cycles. And that's when you make your money. You only hope to, go through a few of these cycles in your career, and you can make a really good living doing it. So,
Absolutely.
stepping into the details, I think the first thing somebody should do is really think about their strategy. Okay, what's your commercial real estate strategy? Now, I started off as a commercial real estate broker.
Mm.
So one day I just came to the conclusion that the guys across the table from me that I was acting as a broker for just weren't that much smarter than me.
Yeah.
And I wanted to be on the other side of the table. So I kind of put my plan together to do that, and it worked really well. So
Mm.
for me, I wanted to supplement my fee-based income. So I was making a really good living, multiple six figures being a commercial real estate broker, but I wasn't building any wealth, right? I really wasn't building any wealth. And so I was doing all this hard work to tee up these deals, and I was just basically handing them to somebody else. So
Mhm.
for me, my strategy was to really run a fee-based business on one side, but a wealth building business on the other side, and they're all connected. So that was my strategy. And then I eventually left the broker's business because things were going so well, building a portfolio. So that was my strategy. Somebody's strategy, I think, with coming into residential, you should really be worried about, and even somebody like you, Bud, do your first deal. I don't care how small it is. My first deal was $99,000. That's it. And I had some cash and I got some seller financing to do that deal. Now I turned around and refinanced it. Um, and I subsequently sold that property to my attorney for $250,000. So I mean that was a really nice deal. And then I took those profits and kept on rolling them. Um, so the strategy for somebody in residential or somebody young in the business is I don't care what it takes. Just do a small deal, make it easy on yourself. Success breeds success. So just get focused on doing your small one. Go down in your town, in your city. You're gonna stumble across deals, small little mixed use commercial properties. look at doing one of those deals. Now, if you're maybe a business owner, for example, or you own a real estate company and you're maybe doing some brokerage or you're doing some property management, there is a phenomenal real estate asset that's literally sitting right underneath your chair. And that's by, instead of paying rent to some landlord for your real estate business, whatever that amount is per month, why don't you go out and find like a little commercial building that you can move your business into and write yourself a check every month for the rent. And then I help people sometimes find a couple other tenants to help them supplement some expenses. So the advantage there in what I did when I bought my first office building, as my real estate company grew, and then I grew a construction company and property management and all that stuff, I just kicked tenants out of my building as I needed to expand into more space. So I think my first building was about 5,000 feet. I probably started off at about 1,000 feet, then went to 2,000 feet, you know, all that kind of stuff. So that's a really good asset that's might be underneath a business owner's chair right now, that they should go do their own building instead of pay somebody else. I mean, literally fire your landlord. And there's really good financing available if you're a small business owner and you want to occupy your own real estate, with some SBA financing and stuff like that. So once you figure out your strategy, you kind of figure out, okay, how much money do I have? Again, do your first deal small. Okay, so hopefully you can self-fund it, or we can get some creative financing or stuff like that. Or maybe you have some friends and family that would be interested in investing. That's great. I've done those deals and helped other people do that. Second, you got to determine if you were kind of a roll up your sleeves and fix it type person. Do you like doing repairs, and do you like fixing properties, doing demo and drywall and carpentry and all that kind of stuff? If you like doing that kind of stuff, then you're probably well suited to buy something that you got to stick a lot of work into. So if you're not, then you got to rely on contractors, which obviously can be challenging, at points. So,
Yep.
Know how much money you got, know what your skills are. Do you like property management? That kind of stuff. So once you have your strategy, for me, it was just buying property that I didn't have to stick a lot of money into, just like more like cosmetic repairs, get properties rent ready, and then literally pound the pavement trying to find tenants. So that was my skill sets as a broker. I was really good at finding tenants and that kind of stuff and seeing the value that I could add. So then once you got your strategy, using that strategy, you got to go out and then find the properties, right? You got to literally beat the bushes trying to find deals. There's lots of online resources like LoopNet, even though sometimes I think that's where deals go to die. LoopNet is a good place to go in your market and find deals, not necessarily to buy, but the brokers that have those deals are good people to start forming relationships with. So it's like you start calling them, hey, I'm calling them at 123 Main Street, I'm an interested investor, knowing you're probably not interested in that property. And then you ask her the question, you know what, that's probably not going to be a good fit. What else do you have? And then they're going to ask you, what do you want? And then that's kind of where you talk to people about what you want. So I think you also want to drive your market. You want to drive the city, and there's for sale signs and for lease signs and all that kind of stuff. And you got to start talking to people. And like I tell you all the time, bud, it's a belly to belly business. You're not going to do this over text. You're not going to do it over social media. You could start conversations that way, but real estate is a belly to belly business. So
absolutely.
Stay local with your first deal. Something that you can keep your eyes on. And then I think once you find those properties, then you got to be able to do like quick deal analysis to determine, okay, based off the strategy I just came up with, does this property fit that strategy? And will it work for me? And that's, doing a down and dirty, quick deal analysis on a spreadsheet. And you've seen that 100 times.
Yeah.
So that's how we find properties. The second thing is you got to learn how to structure deals. And this is how I help obviously most people. And this is kind of this is what really interests me about real estate. Is every deal is different, is how to structure the debt and equity, how to negotiate offers with sellers, how to structure creative financing, all that stuff. So given your strategy, how can we lay in deal structure and how to make sure that you're going to have a profitable deal? And then where I think a lot of people get stuck is making the damn offer, right?
Yeah.
Is okay, this property fits in my strategy. My quick deal analysis has turned out, and where people kind of get really hesitant, I find, is they're nervous to make the offer. Well, that's where I help people, that I mentor in you, is I help press forward and make the offer, because you're not going to buy any real estate if you're not making any offers. So um, that's kind of like the second step. And then the third step is, okay, once you get the offer signed, and I really kind of spend 30 to 60 days looking for reasons to not do the deal. Okay, why
Hmm.
is this property not gonna, at the end of the day, um, fulfill my strategy? And that's where you got to be really dispassionate about the deal, and trust but verify what people tell you about the property. And you
Hmm.
got to do your in-depth due diligence. You got to make sure the building's in good shape. You got to make sure that the numbers work. You know what all your expenses are. You got to know what your existing revenue or rents are going to be, or what you can rent the property for. So, like when I bought that first building, it was vacant, my $99,000 building, but I knew it was in a good area and I knew what I could rent it for.
Hmm.
And then so I did the numbers and be like, boy, if I bought this property here and I can rent it for this, it's going to be a really good deal. And it turned out. So those are kind of really what you got to really figure out. And then once the property um, passes all of your tests and you haven't found a reason not to do the deal, then you got to really kind of like herd the cats and then get the property and the transaction ready to close. And then that's where you get your attorney involved, you get the title and company involved, the seller, the seller's broker, and the seller's lawyer, and you got to tie all the parties together, and then actually close the transaction, and then you got to transition the property to your ownership. So I would say it's, at the end of the day, after you determine your strategy, you gotta teach you three things: find deals, structure deals, close deals. That's it.
Gotcha. So I know you were talking about your first deal a little bit and how you bought it when it was vacant. How do you go about personally finding tenants to fill those vacancies, like in that property and other properties you've had since?
Yeah, I mean, for that one, I remember what I did, because it was, I mean, literally on a really good main street in Milwaukee.
Yeah.
And it was on a really good busy street. Is I literally went to the Chamber of Commerce and I said, "Hey, I bought this building over here," and I put together like a one-page flyer with some pictures and a floor plan showing the square footage. And a lot of these chambers of commerce in cities, part of their job is to attract tenants, to
Hmm.
attract revenue and tax base and all that kind of stuff into the municipalities. So many times when a tenant wants to locate into a area or a city, they'll go to the Chamber of Commerce and saying, "Hey, I want to open this business here. I'm just starting off. Can you help me?" And then
Hmm.
so having that information right at their fingertips, saying, "Oh yeah, well, you know what, this building over here on 123 Main Street, I think is going to be a good fit." Well, for me, I was lucky because that was my building. So that's just one of the ways. You can hire real estate brokers to help you lease them, and they'll do all of what they need to do to get a property leased, whether it's doing some advertising, sign on the property, showings, talking to other brokers, that kind of stuff. There's obviously Craigslist, LoopNet, other online places. I mean, there's not one thing you got to do. You just got to do a bunch of them, and then um, rely on one of those to help you bring in the tenant. But I literally, it was all me, and I even remember going to knock on doors, within maybe like a 5-6 block radius, just dropping
Mhm.
off information saying, "Hey, I own this building. I've got some space available. If you've ever, contemplated leaving this location, this is available." So
Mhm.
I did that a lot as a broker and a property owner.
Gotcha. So one last question for you before we hop off. I know you touched on it a little bit before, but how would somebody with little to no money get started in commercial real estate? Because I know it scares a lot of people, and they think big, huge apartment complexes, big, huge office buildings, millions of dollars. What would you say to that?
Yeah, I think I'll just reiterate, make your first deal small. Like for me, it
Mhm.
was 99 grand. Um, I think, and that kind of dovetails to what I said before, where I find, at least in my experience, that commercial real estate owners are way more flexible, way more willing to sell on terms, way
Mhm.
more willing to do seller financing, carry seconds, that kind of stuff. So I think as far as deal structure goes, it's way easier to do commercial. So I think you've got to understand the capital that you have available at your disposal. I think I like put like 5 grand into my first deal, or 10 grand or something like that. So I mean that was just not a problem for me to do. And
Mhm.
I think if you think that you're going to invest in a bunch of commercial real estate with no money, I'm not going to say it's impossible, but it's very difficult. And I think you're better off joint venturing with somebody to start, where maybe you become a deal finder, or you're a wholesaler or something
Mhm.
like that. Like for me, when I was just absolutely screaming, doing 20, 30 million a year in acquisitions, there's no way a guy like me could see every deal in my market. So I loved it when people brought me deals, basically dropped it right at my lap and said, "You should do this deal, and here's why." They already have it
Mhm.
tied up. I don't have to negotiate the deal. I just got to basically do my due diligence, underwrite it, and then invest my capital and that of my investors. So um, that's a really good way to get started if you don't have much money. And then you just get paid, assignment fees when the deal closes. So that's a really good way for somebody to get started if they don't really have any money. But assuming that somebody does have some money or access to money, um, start small, and just make it a really small deal.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So how
All
about
right.
you? What's on your mind as a young aspiring commercial real estate investor? What are your thoughts for 2024 and moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, growing up, I kind of always was growing up around real estate and your business and seeing what you do. I mean, I remember you taking me to your properties quite often, actually, just to be around you and be around the business.
Well, let's be
Um,
honest. You're pushing a broom.
yeah, I mean, I did some property work and yeah, and I thought that was pretty cool. But yeah, I'm excited for 2024. You're telling me, and I'm seeing is big horizons. You only see this, a couple times maybe in your lifetime, where you can really make something on yourself. So that's kind of what I'm looking to do. And you know, you being you being in this field for however many years you've been doing it, is you're the perfect guy to learn from. Um, I think. I mean, I don't think there's a better teacher in the world that could teach me this. So um, I'm here on the joint venture, and let's make 2024 great.
Yeah, sounds good. And I think, one thing that I'll probably say in conclusion is that for sure, with real estate, and I think a lot of things for that matter, it's all about hitting singles, right?
Mm.
Then you maybe hit a couple doubles, and then maybe you get a triple every once in a while, and then if you're lucky, you hit a home run as far as deals go. And I'm lucky. Early on in my career, I hit a big home run, and that kind of set me up. So that's not necessarily, what I want you or anybody else to kind of hold out for, but hit
Mhm.
a bunch of singles, man, and then it kind of rolls. Like, my single was $99,000, but I sold that, rolled it in the next deal, sold that, rolled it in the next deal, and then I got to the point where I didn't really need to necessarily sell. I could just hold, and I could just rely upon the increasing rents and refinancing and all that kind of stuff to really snowball the portfolio. And so just my advice is to just focus on getting that first deal done, because I really believe almost everybody is one small commercial real estate deal away from a path of financial freedom. And just do that first deal, and then success breeds success, and then move on to the next one. That first deal gives you credibility, and you're able to announce to people and brokers that, hey, I just closed this deal. Like, oh man, I gotta start showing this guy opportunities. He's real. And that's your credibility, that's your track record, and that's how you really kind of snowball the business and really grow a nice portfolio. So
Awesome. Well, thanks for joining me today. Thanks for answering my questions. And
anytime.
yeah, we're planning to do this probably every Tuesday. And if you guys got any questions or any topics you'd like us to cover in those future podcasts, just drop them in the comments below, and we'll gladly do that.
Yeah, we're super laid back. I'm an open book. I love helping people. I kind of subscribe to the fact where if I help enough people get what they want, I'll get everything I want in return. And it's kind of worked out in my life where when I was a broker, I was helping people do deals. And then when I started doing my own deals, I needed to bring in investors. And if I helped them make money, I was making money, right? So it's just, I've got that, mentality built in my mind, and I know Nate does too. And I'm helping him. Obviously, he's the next generation, and his sister are the next generation of my business. And I think this is kind of a cool thing we're going to be doing, and hopefully people get some value out of it, and go from there.
Awesome.